The Zoreth Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Their ships numbered in the millions, spread across 100,000 star systems. Their soldiers were countless, their weapons powerful beyond imagination. No species had ever stood against them and survived. The Zoreth had conquered or destroyed every civilization they had ever encountered, and they had grown used to absolute power. When their scouts first discovered Earth, they treated it as they treated all new worlds. They sent observation probes to study the primitive creatures living there. The probes watched humans for 50 years, recording their technology, their wars, their divisions. The Zoreth High Council reviewed the reports and laughed. "These creatures are barely space-faring," said Grand Admiral Zythos, commander of the Conquest Fleet. "They fight among themselves constantly. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships cannot even travel faster than light without those clumsy jump gates they built." Emperor Voreth sat on his throne made of the bones of 100 conquered kings. He was old, even by Zoreth standards, but his mind was sharp and his will was iron. How long would it take to conquer them? 2 weeks, Zythos answered with confidence. Perhaps 3 if they prove stubborn. They have no planetary shields, no orbital defense platforms worthy of mention. Their largest warships would be destroyed by our smallest patrol craft. The Emperor nodded slowly. "Then send the Conquest Fleet. Add another world to our domain." This was how it had always been done. The Zoreth would appear above a planet with overwhelming force. They would demand surrender. If the species submitted, they became slaves. If they resisted, they became extinct. There had never been a third option. The Conquest Fleet numbered 5,000 ships. This was considered excessive for a single planet, but the Zoreth believed in demonstration of power. They wanted the humans to see their might and despair. They wanted the surrender to be quick and complete. Admiral Zythos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, as his fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth's moon. The blue planet hung in space before them, beautiful and fragile. Zythos had seen 100 such worlds fall before his guns. This one would be no different. "Open a communication channel to all major population centers," he commanded. "Let them see who their new masters are." On Earth, the message appeared on every screen, every phone, every device capable of receiving a signal. The alien face that appeared was terrifying to human eyes. The Zoreth were tall and thin, with gray skin stretched over angular bones. Their eyes were large and dark, completely black, reflecting no light. When Zythos spoke, his voice was translated into every human language simultaneously. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Zythos of the Zoreth Empire. We have conquered 100,000 worlds. No species has ever defeated us. Your planet now belongs to the Empire. You will surrender immediately and submit to our rule. Those who obey will be allowed to live as servants. Those who resist will be destroyed. You have one standard cycle to respond." The message ended. All around the world, humans looked up at the sky where they could now see tiny points of light that had not been there before. 5,000 alien warships hung in orbit, their weapons charged, their crews ready. In the United Nations building in New York, the world's leaders gathered in emergency session. The President of the United States spoke first. "We need to respond. What do we tell them?" "What can we tell them?" asked the Prime Minister of Britain. "We cannot fight 5,000 warships. Our entire military combined could not destroy even one of those vessels." "We could try to negotiate," suggested the Chinese president. "Perhaps we can find terms that are acceptable." The Russian president shook his head. "You heard the message. Surrender or die. There is no middle ground with such creatures." The debate continued for hours. Some argued for immediate surrender. Others wanted to fight, even knowing they would lose. A few suggested trying to hide, to send some portion of humanity into deep space to escape. It was the American General Marcus Stone who finally silenced the room. He was old, his hair white, his face weathered by decades of service. But his eyes were sharp, and when he spoke, everyone listened. "There is something you all need to know," he said. "Something that has been kept secret for a very long time." "What secret could possibly matter now?" demanded the French president. General Stone looked around the room. 60 years ago, we detected signals from deep space. We realized that we were not alone in the universe. We also realized that any species capable of traveling between stars would likely be far more advanced than us. We knew that someday they might come here, so we prepared. Prepared? The British Prime Minister looked confused. How? Our technology could not possibly match an interstellar civilization. "That is what we wanted anyone watching to believe," Stone replied. "Every probe, every satellite, every observation device that has watched Earth for the last 60 years has seen exactly what we wanted them to see. They saw our primitive rockets. They saw our chemical-powered weapons. They saw our internal conflicts and our apparent weakness." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the old general. "What are you saying?" asked the American president slowly. Stone smiled for the first time. "I am saying that humanity has been hiding its true capabilities. I am saying that behind the facade of a primitive, divided species, we have built something extraordinary. I am saying that these aliens have made a very serious mistake." He pressed a button on the table in front of him. The screens around the room flickered and changed, showing images that made the assembled leaders gasp in disbelief. "The United Nations Space Command," Stone announced. "Established in secret by all major nations 60 years ago. While the world watched us pretend to be weak and divided, we worked together in the shadows. We built what you see before you." The images showed ships, not the primitive rockets the aliens had observed, but something else entirely. Sleek, powerful warships that made the alien vessels look crude by comparison. Underground factories that stretched for miles. Weapons platforms hidden inside asteroids. Defense systems buried beneath the surface of every continent. "How is this possible?" whispered the Japanese Prime Minister. "How could you hide something so massive?" "With great difficulty," Stone admitted. "But we knew that our survival might depend on it. We knew that we had to appear weak while we grew strong. And now, after 60 years of preparation, we are ready." On the screens, more images appeared. Ships emerging from hidden bases on the dark side of the moon. Weapons platforms activating throughout the asteroid belt. Defense satellites coming online around Earth in numbers that seemed impossible. "How many ships do we have?" asked the Russian president. General Stone's smile widened. "More than they do." The room erupted in questions, but Stone held up his hand for silence. "There will be time for explanations later. Right now, we need to decide what we are going to tell our uninvited guests." The American president looked at the images of humanity's hidden fleet, then at the alien ships still visible in orbit. For the first time since the message had arrived, he did not feel afraid. "I think," he said slowly, "that we should tell them the truth." General Stone nodded. "My thoughts exactly, Mr. President. Let us show them who they are really dealing with." The deadline given by Admiral Zythos was almost over when Earth finally responded to the Zoreth Empire's demand for surrender. The Admiral stood on his bridge, expecting to see frightened human leaders begging for mercy. What he saw instead confused him deeply. A single human appeared on the screen. He was old, his hair white, wearing a uniform that Zythos did not recognize. The uniform was black with silver trim, and on the chest was an emblem showing Earth surrounded by stars. The human did not look afraid. In fact, he was smiling. "Admiral Zythos," the human said, "I am General Marcus Stone of the United Nations Space Command. On behalf of humanity, I have received your ultimatum." Zythos leaned forward. "And your answer?" "My answer is this. You have been deceived. The Earth you observed is not the real Earth. The humanity you studied is not the real humanity. What you see is a mask that we have worn for 60 years, waiting for this moment." The Admiral's dark eyes narrowed. "Explain yourself." "Gladly." General Stone gestured and the image behind him changed. "Your scouts watched us for 50 years. They saw primitive rockets. They saw chemical weapons. They saw a divided species fighting among itself. But that was all theater, Admiral. A performance designed specifically for any watching eyes." The screen now showed images that made the Zareth officers gasp. Human warships, thousands of them, emerging from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Not the clumsy vessels the scouts had reported, but sleek machines of war that seemed to flow through space like predators hunting their prey. "60 years ago, we detected your Empire's signals," Stone continued. "We knew that contact was inevitable. We knew that a species capable of interstellar travel would likely be a threat, so we made a choice. We decided to appear weak while we grew strong. We let your scouts see what we wanted them to see." Admiral Zythos felt something cold moving through his body. It was an unfamiliar sensation. It took him a moment to recognize it as fear. "You are bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Am I?" Stone asked. "Look at your sensors, Admiral, look carefully." Zythos turned to his tactical officer. "Report." The tactical officer's face had gone pale. "Admiral, we are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Ships, sir. Thousands of them. They are emerging from hidden positions in the asteroid belt, on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, from beneath the surface of Mars. I cannot get an accurate count, but initial estimates suggest at least 15,000 vessels." "That is impossible," Zythos whispered. "Our scouts watched this system for decades. They saw nothing." "Your scouts saw what we allowed them to see," Stone replied. "Holographic camouflage, sensor-dampening fields, underground construction. We are very good at hiding, Admiral. We have had many years of practice." On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, alarm signals began to sound. More reports came in from the fleet. Human ships were appearing everywhere, surrounding the conquest fleet from all directions. "Those ships," the tactical officer said, his voice shaking. "Sir, they are not what we expected. Their weapons systems are unlike anything in our database. Their engine signatures suggest propulsion technology that exceeds our own." Zythos stared at the screen where General Stone still waited patiently. "How?" he demanded. "How could a species so young develop such technology?" "We are very determined," Stone answered simply. "When we realized that the universe might be hostile, we did not despair. We did not fight among ourselves for resources. Oh, we continued to pretend that we did, for the benefit of your observers. But in secret, every nation on Earth contributed its best minds, its greatest resources, to a single goal: survival." The general stepped closer to the camera. "For 60 years, humanity has worked as one. Every scientist, every engineer, every factory worker who could be trusted with the secret has contributed. We developed technologies that should have taken centuries to create, because we knew we had no time to waste. We built a military force capable of defending our world against any threat. And now, Admiral Zythos, you have given us the opportunity to reveal what we have accomplished." The tactical officer spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "Admiral, the human ships are not attacking. They are simply surrounding us. But their weapons are powered and locked on our vessels. If they fire, they will destroy us in moments." Zythos was silent for a long time. He was trying to understand how such a massive deception could have been possible. His empire had conquered countless worlds. They had studied hundreds of species. Never before had they been fooled so completely. "You waited for us," he said finally. "You wanted us to come here." "Yes," Stone admitted. "We knew that eventually someone would find us. We knew that our deception would only work once. So we waited for the right moment, for an enemy confident enough to attack without caution. You have given us that opportunity, Admiral. Thank you." Zythos felt anger rising in his chest. "You may have ships, but the Zoreth Empire has millions. Do you think this small force can stand against our entire military?" General Stone's expression did not change. "Admiral, what you see here is not our entire military. This is simply what we felt necessary to deal with your conquest fleet. Would you like to see more?" He pressed a button, and the display behind him changed again. It showed star charts now, marked with thousands of red dots scattered throughout the galaxy. 60 years of hidden exploration, Stone explained. 60 years of secret expansion. We have colonized worlds that your empire has not yet discovered. We have built shipyards in systems your scouts have never visited. We have been watching you, Admiral, just as you have been watching us, and we have been preparing for this day. The red dots began to blink. Right now, hidden fleets are activating throughout the galaxy. Our ships are taking position near your colony worlds, your supply lines, your military bases. We have been among you for decades, waiting and watching and building. Zythos looked at the star chart with growing horror. The red dots were everywhere. If what the human said was true, the Zoreth Empire was already surrounded. "You could not have done this," he insisted. "We control hyperspace travel. No ship can move between stars without our knowledge." "You control the hyperspace lanes that your technology created," Stone corrected him. "We developed a different method of faster-than-light travel, something your scientists never imagined was possible. It leaves no signature that your sensors can detect. For the last 40 years, our ships have been passing through your territory completely unseen." The Admiral turned to his communications officer. "Contact the homeworld, now." The officer worked frantically at his console. After a moment, he looked up with fear in his eyes. "Admiral, I cannot establish a connection. Something is blocking our communications. All channels are dead." "That would be us," Stone said pleasantly. "We have disabled your communication network throughout this sector. Your fleet is alone, Admiral. No one is coming to help you." Zythos stared at the human on the screen. For 10,000 years, the Zoreth had been the hunters. Now, for the first time, he understood what it felt like to be the prey. "What do you want?" he asked. General Stone's smile faded. His expression became serious, even sad. "We did not want this, Admiral. We would have been happy to share the galaxy in peace. But your empire gives no one that choice. You conquer or you destroy. You enslave or you exterminate. We have watched you do this to countless worlds. We will not allow you to do it to Earth." "So you intend to destroy us?" "That depends on you." Stone leaned forward. "You have a choice, Admiral, the same choice you gave to us. Surrender or be destroyed. But unlike your offer, ours comes with a promise. Surrender and your crew will live. Resist and you will die. It is that simple." Zythos looked around his bridge at his officers. They were loyal soldiers who had followed him through 100 conquests. They had never known defeat. They had never faced an enemy they could not overcome. And now they were all waiting for his decision. "I am just one admiral," he said slowly. "I cannot surrender the entire empire." "We are not asking you to," Stone replied. "We are asking you to surrender your fleet. The empire will make its own choice soon enough." The tactical officer spoke up. "Admiral, they are moving closer. Their weapons are fully charged. If we do not act soon, we will not have the opportunity to act at all." Zythos closed his eyes. He thought of his homeworld, of the cities he had known as a child, of the empire he had served his entire life. He thought of the countless battles he had won, the countless enemies he had defeated. And he thought of the strange, impossible creatures who had somehow hidden an entire civilization from the mightiest empire in the galaxy. "You have made fools of us," he said quietly. "We have survived," Stone corrected him. "There is no shame in being deceived by an enemy who is fighting for its existence, but there would be great shame in dying for nothing when you have the chance to live." The Admiral opened his eyes. He looked at the human on the screen, searching for any sign of weakness, any hint that this was somehow a bluff. He found nothing. The human's confidence was absolute. "Very well," Zythos said at last. "I surrender my fleet to the United Nations Space Command." General Stone nodded solemnly. "A wise decision, Admiral. Please order your ships to power down their weapons and open their hangar bays. Our Marines will board your vessels and take control. Your crews will be treated with respect as long as they cooperate." Zythos gave the orders. Throughout the Conquest fleet, weapons went silent and shields lowered. Human shuttles began moving toward the Zarath vessels, carrying soldiers armed with weapons the aliens did not recognize. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Zythos watched the enemy Marines approaching. He had a final question for the human general. "What happens now?" Stone's expression softened slightly. "Now, Admiral, we have a conversation with your empire. We will show them what we showed you. We will give them the same choice. And we will hope that they are wise enough to make the right decision." "And if they are not?" General Stone's eyes hardened. "Then we will do what we have been preparing to do for 60 years. We will fight, and we will win." The communication ended. Admiral Zythos stood on his bridge as human soldiers entered through the doors behind him. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Zorath Empire had been defeated, and it had happened so quickly, so completely, that no one had even had time to fire a shot. The surrender of the Conquest fleet sent shock waves through the Zorath Empire. Emperor Voreth received the news in his throne room, surrounded by his advisors and generals. At first, he refused to believe it. Admiral Zythos was his most capable commander, and the Conquest fleet was one of the mightiest forces in the galaxy. The idea that they had surrendered without a fight was beyond understanding. "Show me the recordings," Voreth commanded. The images appeared before him. 5,000 Zarath warships hanging helpless in space, surrounded by an even larger human fleet. Human soldiers moving through Zorath corridors, taking control of engine rooms and bridges and armories. Admiral Zythos in chains, being led away by guards in black uniforms. "This is a trick," declared General Korthax, commander of the Imperial Guard. "Some kind of illusion or holographic deception. The humans cannot have such technology." "The recordings are verified," replied the intelligence minister. "Multiple ships confirmed the events. The human fleet is real. Our ships were captured without a single weapon being fired." Emperor Voreth stared at the images. His claws dug into the ancient bone of his throne. "How?" he asked. "Our scouts watched them for 50 years. They had nothing. They were primitives." The intelligence minister shifted uncomfortably. "It appears, Your Majesty, that we were deceived. The humans deliberately hid their true capabilities. They wanted us to believe they were weak." "Why would they do such a thing?" "Because they knew we were watching. They knew that we would eventually come to conquer them. So they prepared in secret, hiding everything from our observation." Voreth was silent for a long moment. In all his centuries of rule, he had never encountered such cunning. The species of the galaxy usually tried to resist the Empire openly, or they surrendered immediately. None had ever thought to pretend weakness while building strength in the shadows. "What else do we know about these humans?" The minister activated another display. "They have sent a message, Your Majesty. They request a meeting to discuss terms." "Terms?" General Korthax laughed harshly. "What terms can there be? We will send 100 fleets to destroy them. Let them hide their ships then." "With respect, General," the minister said, "their message includes additional information. They claim to have assets throughout our territory, hidden fleets positioned near our major worlds. They say that if we attack Earth, they will strike at us simultaneously on 1,000 fronts." "Impossible," Korthax insisted. "We would have detected their ships. Our sensor network covers the entire empire." "Our sensor network failed to detect them in their own system, despite 50 years of observation." The general fell silent. His face showed the same fear that Admiral Zythos must have felt when he realized the truth. Emperor Voreth rose from his throne. He was old and tired, but his mind was working furiously. He had not survived this long by being foolish or impulsive. He had to think carefully about his next move. "Play their message," he commanded. The image of General Stone appeared before the Zarath court. He looked older now, more serious. Behind him stood other humans in similar uniforms, their faces stern and watchful. "Emperor Vorath," Stone began, "I speak on behalf of the United Nations Space Command and the people of Earth. We have captured your conquest fleet and taken 20 million of your soldiers prisoner. They are being treated well and will be returned to you if our negotiations are successful." Stone paused, allowing his words to sink in. "We understand that you are now deciding how to respond. You may be considering sending more fleets to attack us. You may be thinking that we are bluffing about our presence throughout your territory. Let me assure you that we are not." The image behind Stone changed. It showed a Zarath colony world, a major industrial center with billions of inhabitants. And surrounding that world were human warships, more than could be easily counted. "This is Zarath Prime 7, Stone said, "one of your most important manufacturing worlds. As of 6 hours ago, our fleet has surrounded it. We have not attacked, and we will not attack unless you force us to. But we want you to understand that we could destroy this world at any moment." The image changed again. Another Zorath world also surrounded by human ships, then another and another. "We have positioned similar fleets around 17 of your major colonies and 4 of your primary military bases. We have also placed weapons platforms near your homeworld, though we have kept them hidden for now out of respect for your position. Make no mistake, Emperor. If you continue this war, you will lose." Stone stepped forward, his expression softening slightly. "But we do not want war. We never wanted war. We only wanted to protect ourselves from an empire that gives no species any choice but to submit or die. If you are willing to consider other options, we are willing to negotiate. Send your representatives to the neutral station at the edge of your territory. We will meet them there and discuss terms for peace." The message ended. Emperor Voreth stood motionless, staring at the empty space where Stone's image had been. "It is a bluff," General Korthax said again, but his voice was uncertain. "It must be a bluff." "Is it?" Voreth asked quietly. "Can you guarantee that, General? Can you promise me that there are no human ships around our worlds? Can you prove that everything we have seen is an illusion?" Korthax could not answer. The Emperor turned to his advisors. "What do our own scouts report?" The intelligence minister consulted his data. "We have attempted to verify the human claims. Our ships near the worlds they mentioned report normal conditions. No enemy vessels detected." "But that is exactly what we would expect if they can hide their ships from our sensors," Voreth observed. "As they clearly can." "Your Majesty," another advisor spoke up, "there may be a way to test their claims. If we attack one of the worlds they mentioned, we would quickly learn whether their fleet is real or imaginary." "And if it is real?" The advisor swallowed. "Then we would lose that world." Voreth shook his head. "We cannot afford to lose any major world. The political consequences would be catastrophic. Other species would see us as vulnerable. Rebellions would spread throughout the empire." He returned to his throne and sat down heavily. For the first time, his guards saw him look truly old. "We built this empire on fear," he said. "We made every species believe that we were invincible. Now, if we show weakness, everything we have created will collapse." "Then we cannot show weakness," Korthax insisted. "We must attack immediately with overwhelming force. Even if their fleet is real, they cannot match the full might of the Zarath military." "Can we not?" Voreth asked. "Think about what we have learned, General. These humans hid an entire civilization from us for 60 years. They built ships that are more advanced than our own. They developed propulsion technology that lets them pass through our territory unseen. What else have they created that we do not know about? The throne room fell silent. Every advisor, every general, every servant was watching the emperor, waiting for his decision. There is something else we must consider, Vorath continued. These humans did not attack us. They could have destroyed our conquest fleet. They could have killed Admiral Zythos and 20 million soldiers. Instead, they captured them alive. They sent us a message offering to negotiate. Why? Because they are weak, Korthax suggested. Because they fear us. No, Vorath shook his head. They are not weak. We have seen proof of that, and they do not fear us. A species that plans for 60 years to deceive an enemy does not fear. They are confident in their strength. So why do they offer peace? The Minister of Foreign Affairs stepped forward. He was a thoughtful Zorath, more inclined to diplomacy than conquest. Perhaps, Your Majesty, they genuinely do not want war. Perhaps they built their military purely for defense, not for aggression. Defense, Korthax scoffed. No species builds such power just for defense. We have encountered many species over the centuries, the minister replied. None of them were like these humans. They have already proven themselves to be unlike anyone we have ever met. Perhaps their intentions are also different from what we expect. Emperor Vorath considered this. In all his centuries of rule, he had never met an enemy who offered peace from a position of strength. It was always the weak who begged for mercy, while the strong took what they wanted. Very well, he said at last. We will send representatives to the neutral station. We will listen to what the humans have to say. Your Majesty, Korthax protested, this is a mistake. We cannot negotiate with prey. We must show them that the Empire is not to be challenged. Vorath looked at his general with ancient, tired eyes. I have ruled this empire for 300 years, General. I have seen 100 species fall before our fleets. I have learned when to fight and when to wait. Right now, I do not know enough about these humans to make a decision. We will meet with them, we will learn more, and then we will choose our course. The Emperor rose from his throne again. In the meantime, prepare the full might of our military. If the humans truly want war, they will have it. But I will not give them the war they expect. I will not be predictable. That, General, is how I have survived for 3 centuries. He walked out of the throne room, leaving his advisors to prepare for a negotiation that no one had ever expected to happen. The neutral station floated in empty space between the Zorath Empire and the territory humanity had secretly claimed. It was a massive structure, built centuries ago by a civilization that no longer existed. The Zorath had used it for diplomatic meetings with species they were not yet ready to conquer. Now it would host the most important negotiation in galactic history. The human delegation arrived first. General Marcus Stone led the team, accompanied by diplomats from every major nation on Earth and military officers from the United Nations Space Command. They had prepared for this moment for decades. Every word, every gesture, every proposal had been carefully planned. When the Zorath delegation arrived, Stone studied them carefully. They were led by the foreign minister, a Zorath named Veltrix, who was known for his cunning and patience. Behind him came military advisors, intelligence officers, and a representative of Emperor Vorath himself. The two groups faced each other across a long table in the station's main conference room. Outside the windows, stars burned against the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, hidden fleets from both sides waited to see what would happen. Veltrix spoke first. You have captured our ships, you have threatened our worlds, and now you ask for peace. Explain your intentions. Stone nodded. He had expected this directness. Minister Veltrix, humanity never wanted conflict with your empire. We would have been happy to remain hidden forever, living quietly on our small world. But we knew that was not possible. Sooner or later, you would have found us. And when you did, you would have done what you have done to every other species you have encountered. We offered you a choice, Veltrix said. Surrender or destruction, every species receives this choice. It is not much of a choice, Stone replied. Slavery or death, neither option was acceptable to us, so we created a third option. We prepared. Veltrix leaned forward. Your preparation has impressed us, but do not think that your fleet can defeat the full power of the Zoreth Empire. We have millions of ships, billions of soldiers. We have weapons that can destroy stars. So do we. The words hung in the air. Veltrix stared at the human general. You are bluffing, he said. Stone shook his head. We are not. Minister, I will be completely honest with you. We have studied your empire for 60 years. We know your strengths and your weaknesses. We know how many ships you have, where they are stationed, how they are armed. We have developed strategies to defeat every fleet you could send against us. He paused, letting his words sink in. We have also developed weapons that your scientists believed were impossible. Devices that can collapse stars into black holes. Missiles that travel through dimensions your people have not discovered. Shields that can withstand bombardment from your entire navy. We are not primitive, Minister. We are very, very dangerous. Veltrix glanced at his military advisors. They looked uncertain, unable to confirm or deny the humans' claims. If what you say is true, Veltrix said slowly, then why do you not simply destroy us? Why negotiate? Because we are not like you. Stone's voice was firm but not angry. We do not conquer for the sake of conquest. We do not enslave for the sake of power. We built our military to protect ourselves, not to dominate others. If we wanted to destroy your empire, we could have done so years ago. We chose not to. Why? Because billions of innocent beings would die. Your soldiers, your workers, your children. They have done nothing wrong except be born into an empire that values conquest above all else. We do not believe in punishing the innocent for the crimes of their leaders. The Zoreth delegation fell silent. This was not the kind of enemy they were used to facing. Every species they had conquered had either submitted in fear or fought in desperation. None had ever offered mercy from a position of strength. What do you propose? Veltrix asked finally. Stone pulled out a data crystal and placed it on the table. Our terms, complete and detailed, but I will summarize them for you. He activated the crystal, and holographic text appeared above the table. First, immediate cessation of hostilities. Your fleets will return to their home ports. Our fleets will remain in position but will not attack unless provoked. Second, release of all prisoners on both sides. Your 20 million soldiers will be returned to you. Any humans held by your forces will be released as well. Third, recognition of humanity's sovereignty over its claimed territory. We have colonized approximately 200 systems that were not part of your empire. These will remain ours. Fourth, an end to the policy of conquest. Your empire will no longer force other species to choose between slavery and extinction. If you encounter new civilizations, you will offer them genuine partnership, not subjugation. Fifth, establishment of diplomatic relations and trade agreements between humanity and the Zoreth Empire. We believe there is much our species can learn from each other. Veltrix read through the proposals carefully. His face revealed nothing of his thoughts. These terms are unacceptable, he said at last. You are asking us to abandon everything that has made our empire great. The conquest of lesser species is our right. It is our nature. It is your choice, Stone corrected him, and choices can be changed. The Emperor will never agree to this. Then we are at an impasse. Stone's voice remained calm. And if we are at an impasse, we will be forced to demonstrate our capabilities more directly. We would prefer not to do this, but we will if necessary. Veltrix stood up. I must consult with the Emperor. Of course we will wait. The Zoreth delegation withdrew to their ship. Stone watched them go, then turned to his own advisors. "What do you think?" he asked. Admiral Chen, commander of the human fleet in this sector, shook her head. "They are proud. They have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. They will not surrender easily." "No," Stone agreed. "But they are also practical. They have survived this long because they know when to fight and when to wait. I believe they are waiting now, trying to understand us." "And if they decide to fight?" Stone looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere among them, his hidden fleets waited for orders. "Then they will learn what humanity can really do." Emperor Vorath received Minister Veltrix's report in his private chambers. He read through the human terms slowly, his ancient eyes taking in every word. When he finished, he sat in silence for a long time. "They ask us to change everything," he said finally, "to abandon the principles that have guided our empire for millennia." Veltrix nodded. "They do, Your Majesty, but there is something else you should know." "What?" "I believe them. Their general, Stone, he was not bluffing. He spoke of weapons and capabilities that seemed impossible, but he spoke with absolute certainty, and our military advisors could not prove him wrong." Vorath looked at his minister. "You think they could actually destroy us?" "I think they could hurt us badly," Veltrix replied carefully. "Whether they could destroy us completely, I cannot say. But even if they could only damage us significantly, the consequences would be severe. Other species would see our weakness. Rebellions would spread. The empire might collapse from within." The emperor closed his eyes. He remembered when he was young, when the empire was still expanding, when every new world brought glory and power. Those days seemed very far away now. "Tell me about these humans," he said. "What kind of creatures are they?" Veltrix considered the question. "They are clever, perhaps cleverer than any species we have encountered. They think in ways that we do not expect. They plan for decades, for centuries, with patience that rivals our own. And their military, more advanced than ours. I did not want to believe it, but I have seen the evidence. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, their tactics more innovative. They have had 60 years to prepare for this moment, and they have not wasted a single day." Vorath opened his eyes. "So what do you recommend, Minister?" Veltrix took a deep breath. "I recommend that we accept their terms." "You would have us surrender." "I would have us survive." Veltrix moved closer to his emperor. "Your Majesty, the empire is old. We have ruled for 10,000 years, and in that time we have never faced a true challenge. We have grown comfortable, complacent. These humans have shown us our weakness. If we fight them and lose, we lose everything. If we negotiate with them, we keep most of what we have. And our pride. Pride is worth nothing if we are dead." The emperor was silent again. Outside his window, the stars of his empire burned bright, each one representing worlds he controlled, species he had conquered, power he had accumulated over centuries. Was he ready to give that up? "There is another consideration," Veltrix continued. "The humans offer partnership, not destruction. They want trade, diplomacy, exchange of knowledge. They have technologies we do not understand. If we become their allies instead of their enemies, we might gain more than we lose." Vorath looked at his minister with new interest. "You think they would share their technology with us?" "They offered to. It is in their terms. Scientific exchange, cultural exchange, everything we have gained through conquest, they are willing to give through cooperation." The emperor stood and walked to his window. He looked out at the stars for a long moment. "I have ruled for 300 years," he said. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen species that seemed invincible crumble to dust. I always believed that the Zoreth would be different, that we would last forever." He turned back to his minister. "But nothing lasts forever. Perhaps it is time for us to change. Perhaps it is time for us to learn a new way." "Then you will accept their terms?" Vorath nodded slowly. "I will accept their terms, but I will do it in my own way. I will not simply surrender. I will negotiate from what strength we have left. I will make sure that our people are protected, that our dignity is preserved, and I will hope that these humans are truly what they seem to be." Veltrix bowed deeply. "I will inform them, Your Majesty." As the minister left, Emperor Voreth returned to his window. For the first time in his long life, he was facing something truly new. A species that did not want to destroy him. A species that offered peace instead of war. He did not know what the future would bring, but he knew that the galaxy would never be the same. The negotiations lasted for 3 months. During that time, the tension slowly eased. Human and Zoreth diplomats argued and debated and eventually found common ground. Military officers from both sides met to establish protocols for avoiding conflict. Scientists began preliminary discussions about sharing knowledge. General Marcus Stone remained at the neutral station throughout the negotiations, guiding his team through the complex process. He was tired, but he was also satisfied. Everything humanity had worked for over the past 60 years was finally coming together. On the final day, as the last documents were being signed, Minister Veltrix approached him privately. "I must ask you something," the Zoreth said, "something that has troubled me since we first met." "Go ahead." "When your species first detected us, you could have tried to make contact. You could have attempted diplomacy. Instead, you chose to hide and prepare for war. Why?" Stone thought carefully before answering. "Because we knew your history. We saw what you did to other species. You gave no one a chance to negotiate. You simply demanded submission. We knew that if we revealed ourselves peacefully, you would see us as weak, and you would have conquered us. So you pretended to be weak while becoming strong." "Yes." Veltrix was silent for a moment. "It was a brilliant strategy. I am not sure we would have been capable of such patience." "You had no reason to develop patience," Stone replied. "You were always the strongest, but we knew we were not, so we learned to think differently." The Zoreth minister nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is why you won, not because of your ships or your weapons, but because of how you think." "Perhaps," Stone agreed. "But I prefer to believe that we won because we chose not to become like you. We built weapons, but we never wanted to use them. We prepared for war, but we always hoped for peace. That is what makes us different." Veltrix extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. "I hope you are right, General. I hope that your species truly is as noble as you claim, because if you are not, you now have the power to destroy us all." Stone took the offered hand. "We will prove ourselves through our actions, Minister. Watch what we do in the coming years. Judge us by our deeds, not our words. I think you will be pleasantly surprised." The treaty was signed that afternoon. The Zoreth Empire and the United Nations Space Command officially became allies. Military forces withdrew to their respective territories. Prisoners were exchanged. Trade routes were established. Scientists from both species began working together on projects that would have seemed impossible just months before. On Earth, the news was received with celebration. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious, not through war, but through wisdom and patience. The long secret was finally revealed, and people learned how their governments had worked together for 60 years to protect them from a threat they had never known existed. General Stone returned to Earth a hero, but he refused most of the honors offered to him. He was too old and too tired for parades and ceremonies. Instead, he retired to a small house by the sea, where he spent his remaining years watching the stars and remembering all the years of preparation that had led to this moment. Sometimes visitors came to ask him questions. Young people wanted to know how it had felt to face the Zoreth Admiral. Politicians wanted his advice on dealing with alien species. Military officers wanted to understand his strategies. To all of them, he gave the same answer. "We did not win because we were stronger," he would say. "We did not win because we were smarter or braver or more ruthless. We won because we understood something that the Zarath never learned. What was that? They would ask. And Stone would smile, the same smile he had shown Admiral Zythos on that first day. That true strength is not about how many ships you have or how many worlds you control. True strength is about what you are willing to fight for and what you are willing to sacrifice to protect it. We fought for our survival, for our freedom, for our right to exist. And we were willing to work together, across nations and generations, to achieve that goal. That is what made us strong. That is what will always make us strong. The years passed. The alliance between humanity and the Zarath grew stronger. Other species, freed from the threat of conquest, began to emerge from hiding. A true galactic community started to form, based not on fear and domination, but on cooperation and mutual respect. And throughout the galaxy, the story of humanity's triumph spread. It became legend, then history, then something more. A reminder to all species that the universe was not as dark and hostile as they had feared. That somewhere among the stars, there were beings who believed in peace, who fought for justice, who proved that even the mightiest empire could be humbled by courage and patience and hope. The Zarath Empire did not fall. It changed. Slowly, over centuries, it transformed from a conquering force into a partner among equals. The species that had once lived in fear of its fleets now worked alongside them, building a future that none of them could have imagined alone. And humanity, the young species that had hidden among the stars, took its place in the cosmic community. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as guardians of a vision that they had carried through 60 years of secret preparation. A vision of a galaxy where no species had to choose between slavery and extinction. A galaxy where strength was measured not by the power to destroy, but by the courage to build. A galaxy that was finally, truly free. General Stone did not live to see all of this come to pass, but he died knowing that his work had made it possible, and on his gravestone, by his own request, they carved a simple message. He believed in humanity. He was not wrong. The stars continued to burn above the earth, as they had for billions of years. And among them, the ships of 100 species moved in peace, carrying the dreams of countless worlds toward a future that was bright with promise. The long night was over. The dawn had come at last.